Okay, in this portion of the video series, we're going to go ahead and set up the multi-view drawings for the graham cracker, the chocolate bar, and also the marshmallow seen here. So let's go ahead and start up here with the graham cracker and jump back here into OnShape, and we're going to go ahead and start looking for the insert view. And from here, I'm going to hit the insert tab. I want to work with the studio parts or part studios, and there's my graham cracker. Go ahead and select it. I want this to be a 1-to-1, and I want to set up my front view the way that I want this to be seen. So I'm going to go ahead and start picking these different views to see which one of these views is going to give me the view that I have set up here. And it looks like for me that top view is what it's going to be. So I'm going to go ahead and drop that top view, which is really going to be technically my front view. And then I'm going to go ahead and set up my right side view. Now, it's not necessary to have a front, top, and right in this particular instance because you're going to gain all the information you need from these two views. So one of the first things I'm going to do in this particular instance is I'm going to go ahead and turn on these hidden lines because I want to show the hidden lines because there are holes that run through there with little tiny fillets on the top. And the other thing that I also want to do is I want to set up this detail drawing view, because we're going to be dimensioning that as well. So I want to make sure I have space for everything that I need to do here. I definitely want to pull this down a little bit. So to do that detail drawing view, I'm going to come here, grab that detail view, and I'm going to zoom in because I want to think about, well, what do I want to actually capture? And what I want to capture is going to be just shown here inside of those two arrows pointing at that A. So sort of the center of my view is going to be right around here. I'm going to click and then start just pulling out. And then where my cursor is where that A is going to show up. So I'm going to pull into about, say, here, and then click again. That's going to go ahead and set up the view. Now here's my view. I'm going to pull this over and then drop that in position. Now, this is telling me that it's a scale of a 2-to-1. I'm going to go even larger than that. I want to go 4-to-1. So I want to then go in, right-click, and I want to get to the view properties on that. And we'll change those view properties to go 4-to-1, and it's going to get a whole lot bigger. Okay, so now I have a nice exploded view drawing that I can go ahead and dimension. So since we're here, why don't we go ahead and do that dimensioning and set this up? What it's also showing here, these circles, they are the tangent edges for all of those fillets. I don't want that, so I'm going to right click and tangent edges hidden. I don't want to see all that. All right, so next thing I can do here is start adding all of my center marks and center lines. There's my center mark tool, and these little sign of center marks are just perfect for what I'm working with here because these are such small features. I don't need to do any sort of extensions or like that would just sort of make things a little more confusing. So I'll go ahead and grab dimension for this particular object, and it looks like I got a small issue here. Might need to go back in and update that. Actually, what really needs to get updated is not the part itself, but the drawing units. Because remember, I'm in an ANSI A drawing file. I never set this up and told it that I'm running in millimeters. So what I could really do here is I could select each one of these, right-click, and go into Edit. I can go into Edit, and I can change inches to millimeters. And we're not going to do all that. It's way too much work for each one. If you hit this little wrench over here, then you can come over and the drawing properties display. I can just fly out here. This units can be dropped down and it can be millimeters. So we can set this up in millimeters, come back to my drawing, close that, get rid of that fly out, and there's my 1 millimeter. So again, don't freak out if your dimensions aren't working right. It's not a problem. It's a units issue. So with that set up, now we can go ahead and continue to dimension the rest of our parts. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that radius, which should be 0.25, and that's correct. So pull that up into position. Now I got to get the distance from center of slot to center of slot. I'm going to grab that there. Do this again. Maybe I'll go from center mark to center mark. Good thing I have center marks on there. So we'll go ahead and pull this up. I'm going to pull this out here to the side and drop this there into that position so it's out of the way. And now I need to get some information here between these objects. Let's see if I can use center mark to center mark this time. That works. So if I pull this up, it might get a little cluttered. It's not too bad. I got to add some more information down here. So maybe I'll drop it over here like this. So that's the distance between there. And now I got to go, how far from this edge over would I create this part? So we're going to set that up as well. And we'll pull this down and again move my mouse over here to set this up to be a little cleaner than trying to shove all this stuff into that small space. So as I pull back out and take a look at this, I can see that I've got everything here, everything showing up that I need to. So now I can keep moving on. I'll come over here to the graham cracker, and let's go right ahead and start dimensioning from, let's just start up here from this top corner. And we'll start with the smallest dimensions first. We'll grab, nope, wait a minute. We don't have that, we have tangent edges on, and we don't have center marks. So first thing is going to select, right click, turn off those tangent edges, and then I'm going to grab my center mark tool and again start working my way down through very carefully through all these different little holes. Again, really sometimes wish that there was a automated center mark tool for something like this. You have to do some research on YouTube and see what's out there to make this thing work that way. So with that set, we're good. Now we'll go ahead and throw a center line right down through this part because it is a symmetrical part. Center line tells us that one side is the same as the other, so we don't have to dimension everything. So now we can go ahead and start dimensioning the positioning of these particular hole features. So that one is going to be positioned like so, and then we'll go ahead and set this dimension to position this 8x8. And we'll also add that note down at the bottom of this part. So keep going here and get this thing tidied up with the dimensions necessary. 57, 8, 864, we're all good there. Now let's go ahead and get the rest of the notes set up here. So I want that scale to display. So I'm going to left click, right click, and can I find some type of properties here? Let's see, view properties. What do we got going on here? Yep, so let's see, scale label. I want that scale label to turn on. There's my scale label, good. Now I also want to add some notation. So now I'm going to grab my A for my notes, and I'll pull a little window, see if I can stretch that out. Yep, that works. Select inside here and I can type this in. So this is my graham cracker. Could probably also just call it cracker, but graham cracker is fine. And then now next thing, so I'm going to add this note for that hole pattern. All right. Oops. Spelled that wrong. There we go. So a hole pattern, and I want this all to be up on one line. If I can get that up on there, good. Next thing I want to do is then go down for a next line and then tell it that the all hole fillet, it's going to be R 1.0, and that's on top side. Okay. There we go. So we have our notes, we have graham crackers set up, and I'm probably just a little positioning here and make this look a little neater. And pretty much looking good. Oh, one thing I did forget though is I can see I don't have my center lines set up here for bisector center lines. So we're just going to come in here real close and start adding these bisector center lines into this part so that you can see where the centers are for these little features. And these do help when you're trying to look at a drawing. Because with small features sometimes it's tough to see. All right, and oh, we also don't have the thickness of this part, so a few more things got to add here. So there's the thickness of this part. Drag this out here to the side. There we go. All right, now I think we're ready to move on to the chocolate bar. All right, so we'll go ahead and we will grab the insert tool and grab the insert button again. This time we're going to grab that Hershey's chocolate bar. And we're going to set this up. So the view for this thing is actually larger. This is a 2:1, so we can see a little bit more information on this drawing. So we're going to find that as a 2:1 in here somewhere. There's 2:1. Grab that. And we also want to set the view up. So we're going to have to do some movement, rotation. This would be the front view, but we're going to have to rotate this view. Okay, so to do that, I'm going to select the actual view, right-click on the front view for it, hit Properties. You can see there's a rotational angle. So I want to go ahead and set this up. If I take this to 90 and hit the rotation button, I can see, well, I went 90, but now it's upside down. So I'm going to tell it to go 90 again, and now it's in the right position. Do that by just hitting this opposite direction. So now it's in the right position. Hit the green check. Now I'm ready to continue laying out my parts and drawings here. So I'm going to move this down just a little bit and go ahead and let's set up that section view. So a section view is going to be as if a knife has cut the part in half. The section that is the arrows are not pointing to, you can see the arrows, this section is then removed, and then you're looking at the right side at the actual material that's left. Think of these as knife marks on the material. So think about this as knife marks on chocolate. All right, so to do this, what we'll do is I'll grab this tool, section view. I'm going to then go ahead and select, this is centered on the part, and I'm just going to move in somewhere about here and then click. All right, whoops, find somewhere right there, click. So now I'm on the end of that E. Now I want to tell it which way to take my arrows. So I want my arrows pointing towards the Hershey, start of the Hershey, and as I move my mouse over to the right, you can start to see that section show up. So with that in position, I'm going to left click. That will create my section view, and now I have a section view set up. Now, section view should always, if this is the first section view on a drawing sheet, this should be set up as AA, but given the fact that this is I did this detail first, that's going to be A, and then this feature will become B. So that would be fine for this particular drawing. If you look at this sheet, you can see, well, they both say A, and there are conventions that say you could go AA or AB. I'm not going to be a stickler for this in this particular instance. All right, so with that in position, we're going to go ahead and set this up and continue to dimension these parts. We'll go ahead and we'll grab the projected view. We're going to pull this up into position and drop that. We'll right click on this and we'll get the hidden lines to show up. Escape, right click, hidden lines, and we'll get the hidden lines. Now we're just going to go ahead and add the rest of the dimensions to the part. So we can go ahead and do this. Pretty much from here on out, this is going to be standard dimensioning, and the rest of the information that you would have already been definitely acquainted with. So I'm not necessarily sure we need to continue through the rest of everything here or not. Okay, I'd stopped the video, finished the dimensioning for that Hershey bar, and I'm going to then go ahead and leave you to finishing up the rest of this drawing, because the last thing you need to do is add this marshmallow, and hopefully by now you are comfortable with adding that marshmallow to position, setting up those 2-point center lines. And the last thing I definitely would tell you to do is note. Make sure that the note metric drawing, all parts are in millimeters, is on the drawing as well. So hopefully that you're able to follow through this and take care of getting this working drawing made up, and get your first s'more working drawing finished up.